Rings of Power, guys, episode 1, A Shadow of the Past. It's in the can, it's in the books. They can't go back and change it now. What did you guys think? Did you have a great time with it like I did? I really enjoyed episode 1. I thought it was visually stunning in places. I got a lot, as a self-proclaimed Tolkien nerd, I got a lot of background into Galadriel's motivations, her history, and I love how they connected a lot of the Peter Jackson dots, and are kind of continuing that same lineage or story, if you understand what I'm saying. But this story opens up in the Second Age of the world, and Galadriel is kind of in the happiness of her youth, for lack of a better way to explain it. This is before the earth has known corruption, before the earth has first become marred. And so, as we all do when we look back at our early childhood and those early days before you know what death is, she looks at Valinor, and by extension, so does J.R.R. Tolkien look at the past as being a more pure time. Why I say that is because it's interesting. Now looking at her realm of Lothlorien, that was one of the last bastions of elvendom in Middle Earth. Her desire to hold on to that purity of early Earth before there was blemish and scar. Her desire to maintain the watchful peace. Her desire to be involved in all of the councils that were regarding the ring. When you understand her backstory and how she was introduced to trauma and to loss and to betrayal, it all makes a lot of sense. She was guided by Finrod, her older brother, who tried in his way to say, things aren't always going to go on the way that they have forever. But if you've never seen death, if your race doesn't even have a word for loss or sadness, how do you prepare yourself for that kind of betrayal? And so she was already a wise girl, but she became a wise woman and a wise queen of elves, very, very early on. We're introduced to Elrond, and a younger Elrond who is not yet a king of elves, but I think he's a herald, and they make a point to say that, he's still ascending the ranks and is not yet invited to certain councils. And so Galadriel goes, once she has made her way to Middle-earth and decided not to give up the quest to find Sauron. Taking a step back, that opening sequence, guys, I thought was just incredible. When Sauron starts coming down those stairs and the light is streaming behind him, in that cave of orcs, I thought it was absolutely stunning, and I gave an audible, like, whoa, when I saw him. What did you guys think? I didn't know how they were going to represent, Morgoth and Sauron, whether they're fair forms or, more corrupted forms, but his presence was just incredible. I also was curious to see if they would talk about the darkening of the two trees of Valinor. I wanted to see Ungoliant, and maybe there will be some flashbacks and we will get that epic visual, but I like that they depicted some of those events, that led Morgoth, to get to Middle-earth. Finrod was super, super poignant and poetic, and like such a guide to Galadriel. It had to be such a devastating loss when somebody who can just break things down for you in such simple terms, is taken away from you. His story about the ship versus the stone, and the perspective of looking up versus being aware of the weight around you. I got chills. Some of the first dialogue in this show was absolutely epic. And I hope a lot of people, kind of walk with some of the positives. I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag. I thought Arondir, I thought he was a hot character, a hot elf. There's been so much speculation and talk about diversity in the show, but I really liked Arondir. I liked his nature, his personality, the stoicism, and so I'm really interested, and I think he may be a fan favorite. Outside of those that are just overly critical of the show, but I think his acting, his that machoism, we'll see. He was an incredibly effective character for me. Galadriel has a thought to defy the king of Lindon, the king of elves, and to not accept the summons home to go to Valinor. She's from the Undying Lands, and so she's already experienced that thing, that song in your heart, and that feeling that these elves are looking for. And so it's not as exciting for her to return to that I don't want to say pointlessness, but lack of mission, and lack of purpose. And so to her, Valinor is not heaven, it's a prison, And so it was really interesting to see that. For us Tolkien geeks, to follow a ship across the sundering seas, to see the clouds open up, and the shores, and what Gandalf described at the end of the Lord of the Rings. I think we never thought we would see a visual depiction, even though it was just hints, and even though it was just flashbacks, the birds coming out and encircling the ship, the song that just came into their bodies, I thought it was just visually incredible, and I was moved, and I felt the passion of those elves. It's interesting that the wisdom of elves has limits. Galadriel is by far the wisest of all of these elves, but because of politics, but because of the hierarchy that is, she has to defer to those higher elves that have dominion over her fate. So, and meanwhile, while these grandiose things are happening, and the fate of the elves is being decided, the Harfoots are noticing. They're noticing the skies are changing. The Harfoots seem to be a wandering people. They don't seem to be a people that really have a fixed homeland at this point. They're developing physically into who they're going to be. But I noticed they have to hide. They had to, in a moment's notice, hide and camouflage into nature just because of their size and the defenselessness of such a group of people. And so it's, you understand the motivations and the passion behind those later on that settled in Eriador in the Shire, and having that homeland where you don't have to fear outside invasion, and why that is so important, and why the Rangers felt that population was so important to protect. I love all of the implications of the small things that we're seeing and we're learning. What's her name? Miss Brandyfoot. I forget her first name. Is it Elena Brandyfoot or something to that effect? She's a very queer and interesting Harfoot, an interesting hobbit. She has visions of faraway places, and that lineage and that spark to know more and to explore the world. It's fascinating to know that curiosity that she has is going to save the world one day, So, incredibly fascinating first season for those that, have really read the books, and as well as Peter Jackson's material. I thought this was a wonderful marriage, of stoicism, of seriousness. There was not the crassness of Game of Thrones or the themes of pedophilia and all of those things that turn some people away from Game of Thrones. And so I really enjoyed it. I can't wait. I have not done episode 2 yet. I understand Durin's folk are introduced. I'm super excited about that. What did you take away from this first episode? Was it a welcome return back to Middle Earth for you? I'm super excited about the visuals. Based on some of the dialogue that we heard in that first exchange between Finrod and Galadriel, I'm excited about the future of the writing and where the storytelling can go. So, episode 1 in the can. I'm gonna probably later on this evening or tomorrow I'm gonna do episode 2 and jump back on and share my thoughts. But until next week's episode, guys, I give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you soon. Share your thoughts below, and I'll see you in our next review.